do you want to walk in the room and not have any women there? I don't think so. Like, it's not a fun room to be in. Really think about that when you have the opportunity to help promote another woman's voice, right? If you're doing an event and you have the opportunity to put more women on the panels, or if you go on social media and then you see a woman's post, like it, comment it. We right now are in an age where like there are so much money getting poured into startups in the AI boom, and now women are only receiving less than 2% of all that money. So we need to just come together, all of us, and make sure that we create an inclusive society, not only because of the women there, but because a society and a community where women are represented, where everybody's empowered to have their own voices, is just a more productive and happier society.
Welcome to the True Leadership Podcast, where we sit down with executive leaders to explore what leadership really means through the lens of their stories, their wins, their struggles, their vision, and their lessons along the way. I'm Ty Hammond, founder of One Mountain Leadership and creator of the True Leadership Approach, an awareness-based path that helps leaders shift their focus from what to do about their problems to how to grow from them. Whether you're just stepping into leadership or are well-seasoned and at the top of your game, your potential won't be realized following someone else's script, but you can draw insights from their stories and turn it into wisdom by putting it into practice in your own life. Welcome to the True Leadership Podcast, where we explore the essence of leadership beyond tactics and performance by sitting down with executives to hear what matters most to them. I'm your host, Ty Hammond. Today's guest is Mariane Bekker. Mariane is an investor, entrepreneur, and technologist shaping the future of inclusive innovation and AI in Silicon Valley. As managing partner at Founders Bay and founder of Women Founders Bay, she leads one of the fastest growing global communities, connecting 80,000 founders and VCs through curated events, workshops, and investment opportunities. She's also the head of developer relations at U.com. They just raised $100 million to grow their AI search infrastructure. U.com's APIs empower developers to build more accurate, faster, and fresher AI experiences at lower cost. A former CTO with 4 successful exits, Mariane has spent over 15 years scaling engineering teams and advising early-age startups. Passionate about diversity and deep tech, she's now focused on empowering underrepresented founders and building a more equitable startup ecosystem where innovation and inclusion grow side by side. It's a pleasure for me to have Mariane on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Mariane.
Thank you, Ty. I'm so excited to be here and to chat with you.
Fantastic. So I always start here. Every leader, of course, has a beginning. I find that who we are as leaders at work and in life starts taking shape long before we advance to any executive position or leadership or even to the workplace at all. I'm curious if you'd be willing to share who's someone from your early life or in your early experience that shaped the kind of leader and the person that you are today.
That's a really good question. So, I was born in a war-torn country called Lebanon. And from my early age, I was in a civil war, and then we became refugees in Canada. And when we went to Canada, we were in a poor neighborhood. There was a lot of refugees there. A lot of men got left behind because of the war. So, women were there alone, trying to to really survive and just experience a new life with their kids. And then I realized that a lot of these women did not have the education or did not have the capacity to earn money to really take care of their families. And that really shaped me because I realized that in order to have a successful society, in order to have successful families, women should be empowered to work, to make the financial decisions for their family, and to earn enough money to be able to thrive. So I dedicated the majority of my leadership career in trying to make tech more inclusive and empowering women around me.
It's really incredible. In such a powerful and potent experience, especially as a young person. I'm curious, and no pressure, but I'm curious if there's a particular story that that jumps out at you
Yeah,
of something that really stands out?
definitely. And I think that story reminds me how important resilience is and not give up on what you want to do. So it's a story my mom told me. So one night when we were in Lebanon, we started hearing the bombs coming closer and closer to our building. And it was like an apocalyptical movie where you hear boom, boom, boom everywhere and it's coming closer. So my mom took us, I was really young at that age. We went downstairs, all the neighbors went downstairs in our building, and we were sure that the bombs were going to hit us because we were hearing them closer and closer together. And then suddenly a bomb exploded a couple of meters away in our neighbor's apartment, which was literally like across our hallway. And they were all praying not to die at that point. And luckily, our entire building survived. All the kids, all the parents made it alive. The next morning, my mom took us to the Canadian embassy, and she refused to leave the Canadian embassy until they gave us a visa to get out of the country. And then we were able to get out, but we had to leave my dad behind at this point because he wasn't able to get the visa in time. And that just taught me so much resilience. Like my mom strength is kind of empowering me to go and do the hard things that others don't want to do, right? Similar to when I started Founders Bay, the mission was to really make a tech industry that's inclusive for all, for women, for men, for immigrants, regardless of gender, regardless of where you're coming from. And every time I'm like, well, this is impossible, I'm reminded of my mom who really, because of her action, we were able to get out and now just have a better life.
Um, Marianne, I thank you so much for sharing. I'm truly, to be quite honest, at a loss of words. That experience, first of all, as a father to children, but let alone as a child, is something that I fortunately have not even fathomed experiencing. And I just, suffice to say, I just want to say that I pray for the safety and well-being of all people everywhere. And I thank you for sharing your story. I'm fairly I'm really deeply moved by that story. To be quite honest, gives me a moment of pause before just jumping to the next question. And as I think about the things that have shaped me, I can't imagine the extent to which those experiences, have truly shaped you and how you show up. So it really does lead to this next question though, that I'm so curious about. Of course, this conversation here is about the essence of leadership, not just the performative function or even the outcome of it, but what true leadership actually is and what it means. So I'm curious if you'd share, what does true leadership mean to you?
Yeah, true leadership is really the ability to empower others to succeed. Really, people think that leadership just means like, okay, now suddenly I'm a manager and I manage people and now I'm a leader. No, that's not true. Are you really empowering others to succeed? And leadership requires you to have a certain level of empathy because you have to put yourself in other people's situation. You have to understand their motivation. What do they like? What empowers them so that you could provide them with the tool for them to really grow? So I really do believe that true leadership means the ability to empower others to be successful and removing your own ego, which is sometimes very hard to do, right? Removing kind of these biases and these preconceived ideas that we all have in our head and saying, I'm going to put that aside and I'm really going to try to make a difference in whoever I'm managing or in whatever project that I'm putting my effort in.
100%. And what do you feel like is the difference that first of all, when you say like the ability to put it aside, that that ego, to me, I'm always like, well, we have to even know that it's something that can be set aside, right? To even have awareness of that in the first place. But I'm curious, what do you see as the impact of that when and I believe it's so true that leadership is really relational, right?
Exactly.
So, like, what is the impact on other people when a leader is able to check that ego and really empower other people? What's the benefit to others there?
Yeah, definitely. So I can give you maybe a story of my time at MindBody. So I was brought in as the head of engineering for their SF office. And as a leader, I had to grow the team from 7 to over 50 in a very short period of time. But we put so many processes in place to, one, hire people who reflect our culture, who keep their egos aside, and who really want to benefit the entire company, and that have values that align with the company values. So that was one, starts with really good hiring. The second thing is to put processes in place and to make a culture where people are empowered to really do their best work. So we gave so much flexibility and so much freedom of what the engineers wanted to work on, and we emphasized a lot on their career growth, like how do we align the company's mission to your personal mission, and how do we make sure that every week you're working towards, one, the company mission, but also your own mission. And the result of that is that we quickly became one of the most productive engineering team in the company, because my engineers were empowered to not only follow the priorities of the company, but all of follow their own priorities. So we were aligning both at the same time. And then at MindBody, I was lucky enough that leadership really believed in diversity. So we were able to build a team of 55% women engineers. And because we had this process in place where those women were able to get a promotion, and in my one on one with these women, I was telling them, okay, well, what do you want to do next? And nobody even asked them that question. Like, do you want to be an engineering manager? Do you want to be an architect? And then I would encourage them to always aim higher and to really, go for the moon. And now, and even this week, I was looking at one of the engineers who was working there, who started as a junior engineer, and now she's an engineering manager at a big company. So the impact of leadership is that you're changing people's life. Right now, she's a manager who can take those principles, and then she can go and she can empower others around her to also grow. So you're kind of the impact that you have, it's always 10xing what you're doing, because if you change one person's life and that person changes another person's life, and etc., you can see that your impact is well beyond anything you can imagine.
Absolutely. Think it's so important for leaders to recognize that regardless of what, on what side of the spectrum you're on, that those results are 10xing, right? So it could be a really positive 10x impact. It could really be on the other side of things too, which really, brings me to my next question. What you're talking about in this work of leadership, it really requires growth, and it is full of moments that test us and challenge us. So I'm curious, can you share about an experience that really challenged you, and maybe even one that became a turning point in your own leadership journey?
Yeah, definitely. So I think one of the things that really challenged me was when I started my own company, Upward Recruiting, after my experience at MindBody, and my company was all about placing women in fast growing startup, placing women engineers, so we get more women in these like leadership positions. But that company started growing really fast, and then I found myself working 80 hours, 100 hours a week, sometimes 120 hours a week. At the same time, I had a toddler, I had a baby and a toddler, and I recently became a single mom. So all of that experience really challenged me emotionally and physically, and I burnt out. Like I couldn't take it anymore, and I couldn't even work on my company. And then that was kind of the beginning of the end, but it really taught me that leadership is not only about, like, yes, you empower other, you grow other, but also taking care of yourself. Because if we are not right, in if we are feeling bad, or we are depressed, or we are burnt out ourselves, we can't help others. And it's the same thing when you're on a plane. They always say, put your mask first and then put the mask on your kids, right? So it's the same principle, where as leaders, and I see that also in a lot of the founders that are in my community, a lot of the developers that we work with, like if we don't take care of ourselves, then we cannot take care of others.
It's such a truism, and it's a truism for a reason. It's an interesting thing that I think that we can say these things ad nausea and just like, oh yeah, 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 until we really get it though, right? Oh,
Exactly.
you've really got to take care of yourself. Oh, I really can't give or offer what I don't have to give or offer. And if I'm truly depleted, then there's no gas in the tank.
Exactly. And that's 100%. Also, I think I also want to emphasize that when you're a leader at a company, right, it's not only about your values and also kind of your own mental health, which is super important. It's also the company culture. Like, are you creating a company culture that values this like work-life balance, that understands that you don't want your employees to be burnt out because you don't want to be burnt out yourself? And creating that culture makes it that one, it creates a better, more inclusive team because now you get work-life balance. Now parents do feel supported. And I want to say, like, I just joined u.com and my manager is always telling me, hey Marianne, don't burn out, right? Like what can you do to have this balance? And I'm so grateful to be in a culture where we really take care of the employees and where that culture is reflected within the entire organization, and that really kind of
So
empowers me to do my best work.
it's so helpful. And oh, that makes me think of another prayer that a prayer that all people everywhere find themselves in cultures that encourage self-care as well. So powerful because it's really hard to work against the grain when you're working in a culture that doesn't, you know. So I'm
Exactly.
so happy to hear that you're having that experience. And then what I also hear in that is that, it's part of the leader's role to realize that they are deeply always through their actions modeling and adding to and contributing to that culture. So I really hear that responsibility there.
Yeah.
Um, so again, we've been talking so much about growth and what it takes to become this empowering person who's able to care for themselves and all of these aspects of true leadership. But thinking of your own journey over the past few years, what's been the most valuable investment that you've made in yourself for your leadership, your personal development and growth, and what difference has it made?
I would say really trying to figure out what makes me happy. So 4 years ago, I went through a divorce. It was like a bomb in my life, right? Now suddenly I have to start fresh with a toddler and a baby. And I have to figure out, and given that my entire world changed, I had this moment where, okay, well, now I can really start from zero, right? What do I like? What do I not like? What do I want to do? Um, I've been in engineering my whole life and I love coding and tech, but I was missing this like community aspect, right? And this more of like the social impact aspect of the role. So then that's when I created Women Founders Bay and Founders Bay, and we grew it so fast in such a period of time. But then a part of me realized that I was really missing the technical aspect, right? I spent 4 years at McGill studying like 120 hours in the snow, in the cold. And I don't want to give up that part of me. Like, I will always be an engineer at my core. And then I realized, what if, I do find a career that has both at the same time? And that's why I was so excited to join u.com as their developer, their head of developer relation, because it combines both. It combines like my love of community, but also my technical side. And now I feel more at peace and happier than I've ever been because finally I found like a purpose that really fulfills me. And I think that like is a game changer again. What, like, how can I become a better leader, right? If I'm happy, if I'm at peace, now I don't have all the stress and worry all the time. Now I can empower others. And that's a really good lesson for everybody to just really think like, what makes you happy, right? How can you find something that really fulfills you? And also, impact, you have the opportunity not to only impact yourself and your life, but also impact others in a way that makes you at peace and makes you feel proud to wake up every day.
Yeah. Well, so much of it, I'm hearing from what you shared earlier too, and it's the like, I hear both finding what makes you happy and then also the being with the challenges that's what gets us to the realization of what actually makes us happy is like going through all of the other stuff that doesn't, in a
Exactly.
way.
Exactly. I
So
had to.
it's all valuable in that regard, right? Regardless, like it doesn't feel great when we're in the place where it doesn't fit, but boy, is that important to
It is.
feel and to be with and to see and acknowledge, like, oh, I don't want this.
Yeah, 100%. And at first when I went through this divorce, when I reflect back on my childhood, I'm like, okay, well, I can go and I can be in a room and be sad and always say, why me? The world is against me, right? Like I'm going through all these bad experience. Or I could change my mindset and refuse to be a victim, right? And say, okay, well, all these experiences, what does it teach me as a human being? How can I grow from them? And then how can I use those experiences to inspire others and to change their lives? So, and I think now I always say, well, I refuse to be a victim, right? I refuse to just let my past define my future. And I want to be able to, one, empower myself, but also empower other around me and inspire them to not see themselves as victims and to really use their bad experience to grow from it, and then to use those learning to impact the people around them or the society or their communities.
Well, I resonate that with that potentially more than you know, as the father of a 12-year-old son who I split with his mother when he was 2 years old.
Wow.
So I know equally the confrontation with the deeper part of ourselves that it's such a pivotal time brings. And I thank you for your insight, because I really resonate with it as well. I'm curious to hear from you, especially given that you've, especially found this, which sounds like a really great fit for you, to give you a little space here to talk about what your vision is for your leadership, your legacy, or the impact that you want to have in the years ahead.
Yeah, definitely. So with Founders Bay, I will right now we do a lot of events, but in all of our events, we always put women on panels. I give women free access to almost all of my events. I give them free demo tables. My legacy would be to, you know, even if we change it by a little bit, the tech industry to really provide equal opportunities for everybody, regardless of their gender, regardless of where they're coming from, and just empower women and underrepresented founders and VCs and people who have been on the sideline for a very long time, to give them a voice to really shine. And that's what we're doing with Founders Bay. With you.com, we're currently, right, with this AI crazy boom. There's such a big boom in AI right now, right? And suddenly, agents, I think in a few years, are gonna be the majority of users of the internet, if you think about it, right? With you.com, we're building like this like deep search APIs that will allow like agents and humans to get like better results, more accurate results, if especially if they're building like vertical indexes. So I want to empower others, and especially like women in the field, to build AI application, to take advantage of the AI boom, and to build basically products that use this technology to kind of empower the world. And now with you.com, because we're providing those API, they suddenly can do it at a very low cost and in a more accurate way. So one, leave the tech industry more inclusive. Two, make sure that everybody's empowered to take advantage of like this AI boom.
Well, fantastic. I could feel the excitement and the passion and the possibility. And boy, based on what you've already been through and all that you have created and all of the growth from that, I have no doubt that you will realize that vision, Marianne. Next question here is a little bit more of, what's on your own leading edge, right? True leadership is always evolving. We're always growing. Thinking about everything we've talked about here, what true leadership means to you, what you've experienced in the past, your vision for the future. What's your growing edge right now? What are the ways that you're being stretched or tested in your leadership or in life right now?
Yeah, definitely. I think right now is I think like competing priorities, right? Like as a leader, I think what is hard is you want to do so many things, right? Like you have always 10 or 15 projects that you want to work on. And really figuring out how to like ruthlessly prioritize your time. I think that's where I'm kind of getting stretched thin. Like I get asked to go speak on panels. I get asked to like record podcasts. I have my social media going on. I have like my full-time job. I have like Founders Bay. I have my kids and I have my friends and my social life. So how do you balance all of that in a way that doesn't burn you out? I think that's what I'm kind of struggling with right now. Because every time I'm with my kids, I feel guilty that I'm not working. Every time that I'm working, I feel guilty that I'm not with my kids. Every time I'm out with my friends, I feel guilty that I'm not working or be with my kids. And then when I see like my friends go out and have fun, I'm like, okay, well, I feel guilty because what if I'm missing out on like life? So I think these competing priorities are always pulling me and making me like doubt myself whether I am focusing my time on the right thing. And I think we all experience that in a way, right? We all have like 15 things that we want to focus on. There's not enough time of the day. Hopefully now with AI agents, we can clone ourselves. So that's what I'm hoping for. I want another
I-
clone of me.
yeah, as you were saying all that, I was like, well, anyone who listens to this, I think, is going to be able to understand what Marianne is saying here today. So I totally understand that. And really powerful acknowledgement. I just think it's so helpful when a leader is willing to articulate it and acknowledge it. So thank you for that. This last question here is a bit more of an invitation. You have the time and the space here to offer to our listeners whatever it is that's most in your heart and in your mind to share right now about true leadership or anything that you wish. So take the time. The floor is yours.
Yeah, definitely. I would say I have just a question for all the listeners, right? Do you want to walk in the room and not have any women there? I don't think so. Like, it's not a fun room to be in. So, I would encourage all my listeners to really think about that when you have the opportunity to help promote another woman's voice, right? If you're doing an event and you have the opportunity to put more women on the panels, or if you go on social media and then you see a women's post, like it, comment it. We right now are in an age where like there are so much money getting poured into startups in the AI boom, and now women are only receiving less than 2% of all that money. So we need to just come together, all of us, and make sure that we create an inclusive society, not only because of the women there, but because like a society and a community where women are represented, where everybody's empowered to have their own voices, is just a more productive and happier society. So that's my words of wisdom for you.
Fantastic. Well, I love that I love that you began your words of wisdom with a question. I just want to say I think that's a really powerful show of wisdom. And I just want to thank you so much, Marianne, for the wisdom that you've shared here today with me. A really powerful message, a really profound story, a really grand vision. I've gotten so much out of our conversation here today. And I'm sure that whoever listens is going to equally benefit from what you've shared here today. So thank you so much for being a guest on the True Leadership Podcast.
And thank you so much for giving me a voice, Ty. I really appreciate you and all the work that you're doing.
My pleasure. That's it for this episode of the True Leadership Podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this to catch future episodes. This conversation was brought to you by One Mountain Leadership, where we help leaders grow the capacity, confidence, and presence of true leadership through the True Leadership Approach. To learn more about the approach, our offerings, our community, and how we can help you realize your potential in both leadership and in life, visit us at onemountainleadership.com.